in for another edition of Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. My name is Victor Pepple.
And I'm Shopper Martins.
All right, for the next 30 minutes, bringing detailed analysis to the big stories for today, we have Devo Curry. Good morning.
Morning, Lagos. Morning, team. Eku Owo on my mind.
Lakunle, good morning to you.
Morning, Victor. Morning, Shopper. Good morning. And I overheard you guys talking about good news this morning. I was on my way here. I have my own personal good news.
Okay.
WAEC results came out yesterday, and my daughter at A State.
Congratulations to her. What's her name?
Aziza.
Hadiza.
Aziza.
Aziza, congratulations to you.
Top 10 percentile UTM score as well.
That's good. Congratulations. He feels just like a proud father.
Yeah, sure.
I love it for you. Congratulations once again. All right, there are several ways you can be part of the show this morning. Sending messages to us on WhatsApp 0809 4440981. We're on Twitter at Smooth981FM, and we're streaming live on YouTube. It's Smooth981FM Lagos. All right, and we're taking it straight to the messages for this morning, beginning from.
We'll take it straight to the stories. We'll start off with the first story.
Oh yeah, this day newspaper, not the messages, the stories. This day newspaper, Defense Headquarters, we've arrested suspects of a War Catholic Church attack. The Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, yesterday revealed that security forces have arrested the terrorist behind the attack at the Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State. Devo, let's come to you for this one.
Yes, this is an update on the tragic events that took place about a month or two ago in Owo, Ondo State. Now, there was a press conference that took place with the Chief of Defense Staff, that's Major General Irabo, or General Irabo, who was speaking to the media and then updating them on how far with the investigations on that dastard incident, where about 40, I think about 48 parishioners of a Catholic church were massacred. Now, what they mentioned that with the support of the DSS and other security forces, they were able to apprehend about 5 suspects. Well, at the top of the list was one Idris Ojo, although he wasn't part of the suspects that killed, but he was an escapee from the Kuje prison attack. Now, in the same place that they caught the other 4, they listed their names: Idris Abdul Malik Omezia, Ibn Malik Moma Abubakar, Ali Topa, and Wal Onimisi. And they mentioned that they were caught in a local government in Kogi State. Now, whilst he was saying this, I think the governor did add that they had gotten from those who were rescued, abductees that were rescued from some other attacks, because they mentioned that this same crew committed another police attack in Kogi State, that they whispered that they were all members of the Ebira community. Although my strong issue there is that that was some level of profiling, because even though he said we're not against them, but everybody should be vigilant, when you now come out and start to tag crime with a name or a face, at some point people begin to take some kind of look, or whenever you hear, or if you can detect when people are speaking Ebira, you start to have the wrong intention. Now, the General Irabo did take the same opportunity to dispel some other notions that ISWAP and Boko Haram had taken siege of the federal capital, and that that was not the case, and that there was no need for mercenaries, since many have been clamoring from them, including a lot of state governors, and that it would be better to use such money, because of the commercial aims of mercenaries, to train the capacity of the military. I would rather say, can you upscale our police for us? Now, he lastly said that the military has a covenant with democracy and the electoral process, that they will ensure that the elections take place safely and soundly. Question 1. I mean, there have been a lot of mixed reactions about this capture of suspects. Given the trail of, let's call it loosely, successes that we've had in this fight against insurgency, and the growing insecurity in the country, I honestly do not I take this announcement with a pinch of salt. And why do I say so? Usually, first of all, it took you about 2 months to come out with some level of information on suspects. And you know how it is. We say within the first 48 hours, if you've not been able to apprehend the suspects, you've literally lost the case or the plot because it's very difficult. But after 2 months, you come out with some suspects. And with that story, even though he said investigations were going ongoing, there's no backstory. You're not telling us how this crew that you've caught, what they have been into, or how they carried out the attack. If you were able to get confessional statements, how on earth did they do this and nobody saw them? Two, who are their sponsors? I mean, do these four people, did they just decide that they would massacre 48 people? I mean, we need to be able, as citizens, we need to be able to connect the dots. Now, and if I don't get that complete story, it's going to be because we have a history in this country of just producing suspects arbitrarily and then saying, tagging them, these are the ones that killed. The same way they did for Gulag. They just brought out three young boys from the East and said they were the ones that did it. It doesn't end there. There is a whole trail in life. We need to hear this because it helps the populace. It educates us on how we can prevent these things or what we should look out for or what is really going on. I mean, even though the government has said they're trying to kill the vibe on information on terrorists, literally, we should be the ones proactively discussing the terrorist's next move.
All
Okay,
right.
we understand the terrorists are working in this way and that way. There's so many unresolved attacks that it doesn't give me much confidence to say that this was really the case here. Are we supposed to just pack up and go and sleep? No, what is really happening now? um the governor did make more statements, and I really want to know what is the state government doing, because remember, it really it's an aberration that it's the military making this announcement. It actually should be coming from the police. Our police have been so undercapacitated. I really wonder what went into them being able to capture these people. And if they've caught these with all the unresolved crimes, what is really happening? I mean, there are too many gaps
So much
left
said,
in this
Devil.
story. It's not much for me to celebrate.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, let's have a look at the next story, which comes in from the Nation newspaper. Now, Senate orders Nemasa to explain $5 million payment to law firm. Um, this is an interesting one because they're talking about, now this is Senate Public Accounts Committee, which yesterday gave the Nigerian Maritime and Safety Agency 48 hours to present to the committee, the documents that authorize the payment of a certain sum of $5 million to a law firm for a service that was then not rendered. Now, this is quite an interesting story with a lot of different facets, and somehow the even talking about the authorization of for the agency to actually pay that amount. Luckily, take us through it.
Okay, so the background story a little bit. I like to do that. Okay, so NIMASA is the agency responsible, is the regulatory body that's responsible for maritime administration, merchant shipping registration, coastal and inland shipping, what's otherwise called cabotage, pollution, protection of international waters of Nigeria, security of shipping, registration, blah, 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 all that, everything put together. Now, by virtue of this, they are empowered by three different acts of the National Assembly. Okay, so each of these, so you can see the power that this organization has on its own, because it is guided, it's running on three different acts of the National Assembly. Okay, and then it is a self-funding organization. That is where the big matter is. By self-funding, it means that it's supposed to generate its own income, spend, and then return, I think it's 25% of what they make back into the CRF. I think it's 25%. So it means that if they make 100 naira, they have only to return 25% to the CRF. That's consolidated revenue fund account of the federal government. So whatever they like, they can do with the remaining 75, including pay salaries, do all your running of the business and all that. Okay, so that's the story of NIMASA. Now, the real story itself, the Auditor General had flagged a payment to to an unnamed law firm up to the tune of 5 million US dollars. And on query, is asked the Auditor General has asked NIMASA to produce the evidences and authorization for that payment, which he refused to produce. Now,
On three separate.
on 3 separate occasions. Okay, so now it's flagged this. So the Senate Public Account Committee that has this oversight functions about public accounting is now investigating that to say, okay, look, where is the authorization? The man representing the managing director goes there to say he has authorization from the attorney general. Where is the written document? He says no, there is none. That the written document came from senior special assistant to the president on administration. So there are 2 authorizations that way: one verbal from attorney general, one written from the presidency.
That they still didn't provide, by the way.
Yeah, that I still didn't provide. So that is the story. Now, my question first is this. Okay, so the attorney general says you pay a law firm to do investigation of hydrocarbon, tracking of global movement of Nigerian hydrocarbon. Forget the English. Nigerian crude oil that has been stolen. That's what it's supposed to be for. Yeah. So if you are this big, you do all these things, you deal with local and international agencies, including the Seabed Association, the International Maritime Organization, and all that. Common sense will suggest that you have Nigerian law firms and international law firms on retainership. So who should be the first place you run to when you have challenges like this to do things for you? If the law firm you have on retainership can't do it, they should be the one to recommend to you somebody out there who can do it. So you have a proper trail. So this deal is not as straightforward or as clean as any of us can imagine. So there's a verbal authorization, and then there's a letter from the SSA to the president on administration. So on that authorization, you made this payment. Now give evidences that you even made the payment. And then the Senate committee should also go a step further, if it's possible, if they have to subpoena Zenith Bank to provide the trail or details of that transaction, because they know that the money left the dollar account of NIMASA in Zenith Bank. So it must have a destination. So if they really want to do their job, name the firm that was paid, name the account that the money ended up in, so that we can begin to follow the money all the way to find where it's stopping.
At the end of the
Otherwise, it's just showboating.
Luckily, at the end of the day, this money was lost in the pursuit of finding out what happened to money that was lost.
Absolutely.
Just confirming. Okay, moving on.
Now let's take it to the House of Representatives from the Senate. This one in from the Guardian newspaper. Reps begin fuel subsidy probe, subpoenas minister. Now the House of Representatives launched an investigation to ascertain the actual amount of money being expended on fuel subsidy in the country. In fact, the Green Chamber is alarmed by claims of the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, that the government will spend 6.7 trillion on subsidy next year. Did you see this story, Debo?
Yes, and it's the story that takes the cake for me. I mean, I really want to literally holding myself back from calling these people the House of Representative Commotion, because how are you alarmed at the statement of the finance minister after she mentioned that subsidy is going to hit 6.7 trillion by next year? I mean, have you been operating in darkness? Now let's start. What they had a probe, okay, recently within the House Committee on Petroleum Matters, and what they did was they were probing the amount expended. Remember, they had voted about 4 trillion recently to keep subsidy going, and they mentioned that they had called the heads of the relevant ministries, departments, and agencies to these probes, but none of the heads of these agencies showed up. They sent representatives who literally could not give a strong position or even show up with documentation as to these questions. How much have you expended, and how was this process carried out? Now, they mentioned that because of the wishy-washy responses they were getting, that the panel summoned that the minister and then the other heads of agencies should be present next Tuesday with documentation by August 16. Now, it's a short story, but the truth is this. Um, the National Assembly, for me, is just exhibiting lethargy. And that's they're actually acting so slow with grave national issues, starting with an impeachment notice or impeachment threats with a six week nap time. Who does that? Are you really serious about the matter involved, knowing how long it takes to impeach?
But they had to embark on recess.
That's my point. Then it's no longer a critical national matter. Secondly, you're having a subsidy probe after approving 4 trillion. Are you for real? So did all of you come together between the House and the Senate and approve 4 trillion without reviewing the basis of that approval? Now you're asking how much was spent at the end of the day. Are you for real?
No, they want to see documents as to how these monies were spent.
That's my point. That's my point. Now, you see, if you go for the procurement process in this country is very rigid. And at the end of the day, if you pass through it, you may not be asking these questions. And it's not today that we've heard that a lot of government contracts these days or government procurement has not been going through that proper process. Now, the two biggest cancers on our economy currently are the subsidy, which has taken a grave amount of our revenue that we don't have to the extent that we're even borrowing, and also the crude oil theft. And here we have a reps committee meeting that's and not even having the representatives there. I mean, these it's all late in the day. My point is, it's become a joke. I don't see a sense of urgency from the National Assembly, who is meant to be the check representing all of us at the executive level on what they're doing, on their actions. I mean, they could have postponed their recess in the name of, look, these twin problems from insecurity and these leakages that are going, what I refer as leakages, the subsidy and the crude oil theft, let's find a final solution to, or let's look at how we can address it.
The way I'm smiling because members of the National Assembly will always want to take their 2 months recess. They cut out 2 weeks of it, and this time they're going on 6 weeks. But still, on this, just to clarify, the minister was not in person at that meeting.
No, they sent representatives.
And now the House of Reps has mandated that she shows up next week, Tuesday.
Yes.
What if she doesn't? What happens?
Well, I mean, the House has their protocols when they're engaging the executive, and usually when a member does not show up, you will see them get quite aggressive. Remember, these ministries, departments, and agencies depend on the legislator to get budget.
Sorry.
to get
Bless you.
to get budget approvals. Okay, so there's a symbiotic relationship that cannot be neglected. And finally, the last story, just still on the same story, the National Upstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency did come out to put a hold on the Seplat acquisition of the Mobile sale, their properties that they're selling. They didn't say much to it. It's caused a bit of confusion. I think we need to get more briefing on it because the president had signed off, but they came up as a regulatory agency acting on the law of the PIA that that matter was declined.
All right.
So we wait to hear what's really going on in the oil and gas sector with time.
Okay, shall we take some messages?
Yes,
Let's
we
start
can.
off with this one from Chibuzo, who says, kudos to our security agents for nabbing the Owo Church attackers and the other terrorists. This news will also deter other intending terror activities and encourage our security agencies to do more. I'm looking forward to positive results on the war against insecurity. From Chibuzo, here natural Chibuzo.
And Dam is in with this one. Another day, another questionable expenditure by overfed politicians. But the Minister of Finance will go on the news and complain that Nigeria is broke. The intellectual dissonance between their words and actions is stunning.
This message comes in from James, who says, this is one of the best news in the country today with regards to the lead story, saying that Nigeria would only be happy if those guys are not just apprehended, but prosecuted. Justice would only be served if they are sentenced, well, he says, to death. We hope that their trial won't be shrouded in secrecy and won't drag on for too long, as is our custom here.
Tonya is in. Devo, you're spot on regarding the salt addition to the news of the arrest. Unlike you, I would add more teaspoon than a pinch. It's one thing to arrest. What about the following investigations, prosecutions, and convictions? The silence that follows these arrests is always deafening. On a positive note, congrats to Aziza. Please continue to encourage her to push the limits.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, and we move on to our next story now. Coming in from the Daily Trust on 2023, INEC denies recognizing Lawan and Akpabio as senatorial candidates. We heard from the National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education Committee of INEC, Festus Okoye, who was reacting to an online report that INEC had doctored, backdated, and certified documents to accommodate Senate President Ahmad Lawan and former Akwa State Governor Godswill Akpabio as senatorial candidates. And he said, no way, no how. Your thoughts, Latomy?
Okay, so Mr. Festus Okoye has debunked the story making the rounds about this substitution. Of course, it made the news. The earlier pressure put on the Yobe North candidate, particularly that's Mr. Mashina. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Bashiru Mashina of Yobe APC, because the sitting senator had gone on to contest for presidency and he lost. They tried to claim that, so there's been a lot of pressure on him to relinquish his ticket. And as at the date, the INEC
sorry, just to put things in proper perspective, isn't the sitting senator the Senate president?
Yes, he is.
Okay,
but at this moment, he's just the senator. We're not speaking to the office. We're speaking to the individual.
We're looking at perhaps the issue that is going on in that particular.
Yeah. So there's a particular pressure on. I know that the politics of it will be something else, but let's look at it from the legal framework, which I think this is really more about. There's a deadline for submission of candidates, which has passed. The Machina name has been submitted. And that the pressure from the party is like to get the guy to say, I'm not doing again, so that they can and have the current senator, who is also happens to be the Senate president, to replace him. Okay, so I think that by and large, what Mr. What's his name again? The spokesperson for INEC is saying is that no, as at the date this thing closed, this is the people we have there. Okay, so we would then trust INEC. At least this is one of the bits of the Electoral Act that we clamored for, that we need to have a watertight Electoral Act. This is one of the things that it is showing us, that you have a deadline for submission of names of candidates. You have a deadline for registration of voters. You have a deadline for this and that and that. And this is the cost and everything. And primaries are to be conducted and monitored by INEC. For the one in Akwa Ibom, the resident electoral commissioner in Akwa Ibom confirmed that the monitored APC primaries was not the one that Godswill Akpabio won. So in that instance, so if anything now happens, APC stands a chance of being disqualified in those two senatorial districts during the election if after then, the ones the INEC monitored is not the names of the candidate that is on the list they submitted. So we've seen precedences of that already in Sokoto, I think, and somewhere else that happened. So it is now in their hands to learn to play their cards properly, give themselves a chance to win these seats back with these people that they've submitted.
It just looks like it's between the national, the APC at the national and INEC, because the national chairman of the party is insisting as well that these two candidates who stood in that elections for the APC primaries, the Senate President Ahmad Lawan and Godswill Akpabio, should be given these tickets even after the deadline has been met. But INEC is insisting that it's not going to happen. At the end of the day, before the elections, don't you think, if they take it to Mr. President, INEC might just shift grounds?
Well, let's wait to see whether
let's wait to see where INEC will do that.
Exactly.
But there are legal precedences also that says that we actually vote for the party. So that also some kind of gives the chairman some leverage you know, the governorship thing in Rivers State that year. I said we actually voted for the party, not the individual, because it's the logo of the party that's on the ballot box. So he may have a leg in to say, look, it's the party people are voting for. It doesn't matter who the individual is. So maybe they can use that as a basis for that argument. But let's see what INEC can get, whether INEC can prove his points that this is my rule, this is what the act that sets me up says, and that's what I'm living by. So we'll wait.
Okay, we've got messages coming in on WhatsApp, on YouTube, and you can also send messages up on Twitter where we are at Smooth981FM. Tag us in your tweets. Going to this one from Gilbert Musa from Festac, who says this continuous probe of fuel subsidy. Let's ask ourselves, the 2012 probe of the same fuel subsidy, was it comprehensive and conclusive? How many people were convicted in that probe? Well, questions. And B from Aleki says, please, Nigerians want a thorough investigation of terror suspects, followed by the death penalty. Wow, everybody's calling for the death penalty now.
In the times
You
that
know, death leaves you without hope.
in the times that capital punishment is being frowned at all over the world.
Let's try for, how about trying for getting information? Let's try for that one. Okay, and taking it over to YouTube, Lady Me Love Me says 48-hour rule is for kidnap victims, not all crime suspects. Yes, we need more information, but that's for kidnap victims. Actually, it's not just for kidnap victims. It's homicide detectives use this as well. When a homicide occurs, they actually say that the 48-hour rule pertains then because of a lot of myriad factors, but it's something that you can go check out.
The
It's out there
suggestions
in
we're
the
getting
public.
this morning just interesting. Chris from Ajay is saying we need a law that any looter found guilty should be subjected to death by hanging.
Yeah, move your House of Reps and Senate to pass that.
Okay, can we just take one more story before we go? Corona indicts regulatory bodies over Ikoyi building collapse. It's in the Punch newspaper. Now, the Corona, the Chief Magistrate Oyetade Komolafe on Tuesday attributed the November 1, 2021 Ikoyi 21-story building collapse to negligence. Devo.
Yes, basically he was listing out all the crimes committed, and basically here there was, in summary, was poor safety compliance. Um, Absolutely, both on the part of the builder and also on the part of the regulatory agencies. So my question is this: now that this position has come clear, even though it's taken a while, what actions are going to be taken? One, on the consequences for those who were involved in building. Two, the consequences on the regulatory agencies. And consequences does not just refer to discipline, but how will they address these gaps? Because currently, I know the Lagos State Safety Agency has been testing buildings around the states. How far have they gone with it? What are those houses that are due for demolition? Have they been demolished? What about those houses that are due for rebuilding? What about those houses that approvals will not be granted? It's meant to be daily governance, not just once there's an incident, we all wake up to the fact that, oh, we could be in trouble here.
Okay, and let's see if we can grab a couple of messages before we end the show, or to end the show. This one in from Sir Ken says deliberately using substandard building materials and poor building processes is not negligence. Also, not supervising such buildings can't also be negligence.
No, that is negligence. That's negligence on behalf of the regulatory agency. Because even as a builder, if you make the mistake, a regulator is meant to come and test
has a
it.
material testing board where you're supposed to take all your building materials too. So if you don't, you have neglected that duty. If the agency doesn't come to test, they have also neglected. It is negligence.
Because the building density.
Can we take a message from Yemin Marina before we go? It says, while we commend and lavish songs of praises on our security outfits for the feat accomplished on the Owo massacre, let them be informed that there was a shooting at Fadeyi, Ikorodu Road, between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. I implore them to please investigate and put residents at ease. God bless Nigeria.
Nice one.
Final one before we go. My chick here is okay. It's saying, can Nigerian government speed up this case of the real reason we need this guy? We need these guys to be just as fast as possible. They're taking lives. So why waste time on your life too? Do you know what the victims of their? Okay, I think he's talking about the first story. Can't I don't seem to understand this message. But thank you very much, Sam from Otta.
And that's that for Freshly Pressed. We thank our analysts. You can find Laconley at Laconley70 across social media platforms. And Devo is someone that is whispering to me. I don't know what you're trying to say. Oh, and you can
Devo's on
find
LinkedIn.
Devo Okore on LinkedIn. There we go. And that's that for Freshly Pressed. Coming up, 8:15, it will be sports inside the locker room.
What were you saying?